That's it.
All right. So our poll this morning concerning the gas hike, we asked, do you expect significant price increases as a result of the increased fuel costs? 19 people weighed in on our poll this morning. 14 of you said yes, you do. 5 said no. I would like to find out the thinking of the 5 who says they don't expect increased prices. I would like to figure out how they arrive at that, because everybody has already said that they're going to have increases. Even the supermarket association already warning people of increases.
Once there's an increase in diesel price in particular, you're going to have increases because transportation costs will go up. So
so even with the minimal addition in diesel, it's going to go up. Let's face it, it's going to go up. And once delivery prices of goods goes up, the knock-on effect is that everything will go up. Because I normally buy a particular item in Massey, like the barbecue wings, the little pack of barbecue wings. I've been buying that a good little while because I think it really tastes good. Kudos to Massey for doing a good job with that. And I have seen how that has increased over that period of time there. Because as I say, sometimes I just go in for that alone. And that is almost double the price in the last year. And I talk about in the last few weeks, it has just been going up. And I'm saying, whoa.
So at what point are you going to learn to make your own barbecue wings?
Well, I can, but I just don't cook.
The convenience. I've always said Massey catches
what I
the
would
convenience.
What I would do is I'll go and buy the pre-season thing and I'll barbecue it myself. I haven't done it for a while. I haven't used my air fryer. I haven't done anything for a while. Coming to think of it, I need to get back in the groove. I know you're itching to say something, but I need to get back in the groove. I will. Soon enough. When I clear my head, and I clear my head of some people in my head too. I had to clear my head and my head space. So it'll happen. It'll happen soon enough. I'm working on it. Trust me. I'm fervently working on it.
Maybe you need to use your head to clear your head.
That too, I can't do that. But no, try that. That work.
Oh, jeez.
Well, just stay quiet, Paul. Stay quiet.
Just to inform people, my main phone, folks, if you're sending me messages or whatever, reaching out to me on a phone, you're not gonna get me.
Somebody hack you out.
No, the phone has fallen so many times. Look at here. It has fallen so many times. You see the middle of the phone here? It does not work. Nothing you press in the middle there works. So to me, I can answer a call, but I can't unlock my phone as it is now. I can't even unlock my phone. So I can't see messages. I can't get messages. I can't send messages. I can't do anything on this main phone. So I'm going to get a phone today to try to rectify that. This is the second time I have changed a phone. But I have this bad habit of sitting in my vehicle with my phone on my lap. You understand? And most times when I open the door and I step out goes the phone before me. I have that bad habit. I have to get that fixed too. So some bad habits are going to get fixed. I'm working on all of them. Trust me. Because all of them costing me.
Better late than never. There's a controversial case. I see our guest is logging in, so let me not bring it up yet.
Who's our guest today, guys? Sorry. Because I'm not in the chat. I'm not aware, right?
Isn't he the past
okay. Mr.
president of the TT Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the immediate past president?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. He is online already, right?
Yes, he's being...
But maybe we could pull him one time.
Oh, there he is. Dapper man he is.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Faria, and thanks for joining us on the breakfast.
How are you?
In progress.
Quite good. Keeping busy in my new role.
Which is?
You look very relaxed.
He does, doesn't
yeah,
he?
I've set up a network of advisory practice called Caribbean Advocacy, and our job really is to advocate on behalf of people who don't have a voice, not people who are not members of any other organization. So I've been working with, many smaller businesses and so on, helping them with issues that affect them.
It's a business group then. It's not political at all, right?
No.
Because once people say they're talking on behalf of people who don't have a voice, you're going down. People start to think politics, right?
Well, you know my position on politicians already, so that's why you have no fear of me being allied.
All right. So let's poll you, Mr. Faria, as we have you online. This morning we asked, do you expect significant price increases as a result of the increase in the fuel costs?
I expect price increases. I don't think they'll be significant.
Explain.
Why do you say that?
Well, we have to understand that fuel impacts different businesses differently. Fuel in the total cost of production of product might be 2%, it might be 10%. So it's going to impact different things. And I believe that we have seen this occur, as you would remember, and the opposition has been flouting it everywhere. We had price increases, I think 2 or 3 years ago, where it went up at almost equal or more, and the increases did not occur at that level. So on a percentage basis, this is $1.05. So it's a 20% increase in the cost of fuel. And if fuel is 5% in one sector, or 3% or 10%, the impact is not significant. Now, in a case such as transport, that's where you see more it having a larger impact.
Do you think there was an alternative route for the government than this, or was this inevitable given the global energy price situation and our subsidies?
Yeah. So I've been reading what all the people have been saying, and I think the fact is that when you look globally, you look at North America, Europe, everywhere, everyone has been paying increased energy prices. So this was inevitable. It was inevitable. I must tell you that I was disappointed that a little more analysis was not provided on the basis for the adjustment. So as you know, our energy income has gone up, right? The oil we sell has gone up. But not only has the oil we sell gone up, our natural gas has gone up. The exports that the country makes in terms of ammonia has gone up. So I would have preferred if the finance minister, when he's making his presentation, would have shown the pluses and minuses and show the net impact. But of course, we always get something that's a little less than, I would say, the truth, because we don't know what the facts are. So I believe, and I might be wrong, it's an economist or an energy expert could tell us, I actually believe that we did not have to adjust the subsidy because of the increased cost of fuel. Because when you look at what's happened with natural gas, ammonia, and oil combined, I believe that those increases might have offsetted the cost of the subsidy. And I would like for the finance minister to present that to the public and let independent economists review it and tell us. Now, just to be clear, and you all remember this, the finance minister did say, I think it was last budget or the one before, that we were going to go to market pricing for fuel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And as a country, the reality is that we have gotten accustomed to reduce prices, which are much lower than our sisters and brothers in the region and around the world for fuel, electricity, and water. And that has to change. Now, we have recommended to the minister, recommended the government, that those subsidies should be targeted to those who need it. I mean, the guy who's driving around the Prado, right, the brand new Prado, doesn't need subsidized fuel. And it's simple to do. It's simple to do, and it will incentivize people to comply with tax. What's done in the world, guys, and I've seen it, I've seen it happen both in the UK and in Canada, is depending on your tax bracket. So if you are earning, and I'm not talking 84,000, if you're earning less than 50,000, you get a rebate from the government for your electricity bill. You get a rebate. You can get a rebate for your fuel bill, and it's something that economists can calculate. So if you're under 50,000, you might get a $200 or $300 rebate. If you're under 70,000, if you're under 84,000, so that's the way we should be doing it, and let those who can afford pay for the increased costs of fuel, electricity, and water. The reality is those are things we have to come to grips with.
Yeah. Is this like a fallback or a substitute for not getting the property tax implemented?
No, I think that it's a mechanism for the government to say, okay, we had this shortfall and the subsidies have gone up, let's collect part of it. This does not, I am assuming that this year property tax was supposed to have come in, right? And I'm not sure what's happening with that. But for some reason or another, when government says they're going to do something, be it good or bad, it just takes forever to happen. I don't know. I mean, Paul Richards must live through this all the time. It always feels like you're living in, and you're looking at a soap opera, because you say we're going to do something, 3 years later, you say, but didn't we say that last budget? Didn't we say that last budget? And it's the same thing with property tax, same thing with everything else. Right? Same thing with supporting, we have to support the vulnerable society. That is, as a country, what we are seeing today is we are seeing that the large corporations, the big businesses, the people who are in very senior positions in government and in private sector continue to do well, but our middle class and our lower middle class are going in the other direction. Their income is eroding, their cost of living, they're barely making it, and we have to support those people.
But do you think
Mr. Faria, I always say it because the minimum wage person who makes minimum wage, and I always wonder how they survive, especially as a single parent with an infant. I don't know how they survive.
Do you think, according to some economists, that perceived cadre of middle class, that demographic is changing and they're going into lower socioeconomic without us understanding that the middle class is not the same as 10 years ago?
There's no doubt based on the information that we are seeing, and when I talk about vulnerable guys, I'm talking about small businesses also, because a lot of independent businesses fall into that bracket. They're just barely covering costs. So what you are seeing is what's happened in Jamaica, what's happened in a lot of other countries. You're seeing that when somebody was making $100,000 a year, you say, man, you're doing good. But the reality today is $100,000 a year is barely middle class, right? Because you can't, when you look at the cost of food, the cost of electricity, the cost of fuel, the cost of, when you look at what you pay in NIS and so on, by the time you go home and you go to the grocery, you feel poor.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and there are two conversations that you referenced earlier on. One, that the Minister of Finance has in his last 3 or 4 or 5 budgets been saying that the government will be seeking to wean us off the fuel subsidy. And I think most of the chambers of commerce and economists have said that is the right direction to go, because we cannot continue to sustain that while we subsidize electricity, while we subsidize other areas of life in Trinidad and Tobago. That's one. The other aspect is what you disaggregated earlier on without information about whether or not the government has gained significantly from increased fuel costs around the world with gas exports, oil exports, and methanol exports, and whether that has been properly distilled in public domain. But there's some who would suggest that while there has been enough warning or ample warning about the subsidy being removed, after 2 years of a pandemic, is this the time? We spoke about middle class, and middle class families, their savings have been all but wiped out. They've been if they weren't working for the government, if they were working for the private sector, savings gone. Some have gone into debt. Some have lost their homes. So there's 2 years of pandemic pressure, and now this.
But Paul, the reality is that's what's occurred around the world. what's happened around the world is those same people who've been affected by the pandemic, the same restaurant workers, be it in the US, Canada, the UK, wherever in the world, in our own region, they are finding the same issue. That is why what I am asking is, we're talking about doing a census. Why don't we target? Think about if you look at our poor and middle class and say they were 40% or 50%. Those, and I'm not talking about wealthy versus, I'm talking about people below, let's say, maybe $120,000 a year. And we would have focused the support on that group of people. The money we save by allowing the people who are earning above that to pay market prices for power, water, electricity. I mean, look at the profits that the large groups are making, the financial institutions. Think about their executives. Are their salaries being cut? Can they afford to pay the right price for energy, for fuel, and for water? Let them pay the right price, but let the worker pay a higher price.
In the ideal world,
a lower
what you're
price.
saying is absolutely just and fair. But do you think any government has the cojones to disaggregate the burden that way? Because the big business finances governments, and no matter who is in power.
I think they can, especially after that attempt failed with property tax. Because that was the thinking with property tax, right?
I still believe paying property tax is an obligation we have as a citizen. I believe paying taxes is an obligation we have as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. So, and I consider myself middle class at best today. And my reality is that if I have to pay a higher price for energy because my income is above a threshold, I will pay it. But I'm seeing too many people who can't afford to pay it, and we need to protect. And it's been done in other parts of the world, Paul. It's been done in other parts of the world where I know people, when they get there, and it goes into their bank account, they get a HST rebate, they get a gasoline rebate, they get an electricity rebate on the electricity bill because of their income, which the Border Inland Revenue is supposed to know. And you know who will not get it? Those who are not filing their taxes.
But we've done it for tertiary education, so you're right. The gate system is based on a means test of what the families earn.
Correct. So why not do that? And that way we can implement this. And we all know that if you're given, I don't want to call a name because any name I call will be wrong. If you give a man who have money, if you tell a man who have money, well, pay $10 for diesel because you have your Prado, or you have your Range Rover, you're driving your Range Rover, and pay $10 for diesel. But the guy who driving his little maxi taxi, you say, okay, I look at your income. You are a commercial driver. Here's you get a rebate. Does that
go for businesses also who use diesel to transport their goods and services?
Well, at the end of the day, I don't believe businesses, because once you start to disaggregate this and give all kind of exceptions, you're gonna have issues. But the way you do it is when businesses pay the higher price, the person who is earning less, their rebate will take into account their basket of goods that they buy, and their rebate might be $500 a month. So the way you protect the vulnerable is by targeting those rebates based on a basket of basic foods. And when we have our consumer protection division that looks at the basic price, and when our price of goods goes up by 5%, that they will say the average consumer that's spending $1,000 will now spend $1,050, therefore give him an extra $50 in his rebate at the end of the month. We have to direct support to those, but the reason why they don't like to do it, they like politicians like to go and give the basket. They like to go and give, because don't forget, when time comes to vote, don't forget, here your basket.
Photo
right?
up.
Yes.
There's no photo up if it goes back directly to your account.
Correct. But it's done in other parts of the world. Let's do that. Let's protect our people. Because let me tell you, you can make money in any, I know companies in Haiti and in Jamaica, and Haiti is a difficult place to live in. And even Jamaica, people in Jamaica, what do you think? Will you catch in your skin? Be a Jamaican for the past 30 years. But the reality is there are businesses that do well in all of those economies. But we have to protect. If we don't have a safe environment, if we don't protect those people, we're going to end up with a society that's damaged and vexed. right? And we're going to end up with what happened in Jamaica 30 years ago, where the business people, the people who run the banks and the large conglomerates will live somewhere else and run their businesses remotely. We have to make Trinidad a safer place and a great place to live.
I know that there's a school of thought that a lot more would come out in the media review in terms of the explanations that you are suggesting that the government makes at this point in time, Mr. Faria.
Yeah, but we don't need to wait till the media review. This is a simple. I mean, you all have heard me talk about the bookkeeper already. I remember somebody gave me a kudos when I mentioned that last time I was on. All the bookkeeper has to do is add, minus, equal so much. This is not a degree in finance. I think he has a degree in finance, so I think he could do it.
Well, first of all, he doesn't like being called the bookkeeper. He abhors being called the bookkeeper. but I don't really, quite frankly, hold out for much hope for any detailed explanation in the media review, because I'm yet to see it. It's just an accounting purpose, and we are appropriating this here, we're putting it there, we're moving this to here, and we're taking more money, and that's basically what it is. It's not. Don't get too excited about no media review and any detailed explanation. I've never seen it since I'm there. Okay, so let's not get carried away with that. Mr. Faria, do you think what do you think is the state of the economy? Now, we are coming out of the pandemic. We're not out of the pandemic officially yet. Restrictions are being raised. We're seeing a lot more business activity. Just anecdotally on the weekend, Wendell, myself, anybody who went around saw restaurants a lot fuller than you would have seen them, because they can open up to 100% now and people are availing themselves. But when you look at the immediate reaction of, let's use KFC as the example, as a successful business model, and they put a price on condiments and then they took it off in a way because the market responded quickly. Is that an indication that we shouldn't jump for joy yet? Because if the lower class do have the money, businesses like KFC and similar businesses across that strata who need the lower class to spend money in them will not rebound. And what is the state of the economy from your perspective in terms of that kind of economic health?
We talked about the economy growing, but the growth has been uneven. The reality is that the big businesses that had the capital and have the capacity to absorb and to move and dance with what's happening in the economy will. Right? As we all know, banks never lose money. Whenever things look bad, they just raise fees, right? So they're insulated. But the small businesses and the people who work for them have been suffering. And when you look at the cost of living increase, the disposable income is not there. I talk to businesses today that sell what I call discretionary purchases, shoes, people who do dry cleaning, laundry, clothing. And that discretionary purchase sector is suffering. Their sales are probably less than 30% of what they were. And we must always use a benchmark of 2019. 2019 is the benchmark. So somebody said the economy grew over last year. Well, any dodo could grow the economy over last year. Last year was a disaster. So don't tell me we grew it, right? Because you have to say, where are we against 2019, right? And I will tell you that the American Development Bank issued a report that said that we will not achieve 2019 figures until past 2024. So we have to understand that and don't forget, guys, 2019 was a decline on prior years. But if you use 2019 as a base, pre-pandemic, the Inter-American Development Bank has said, based on our economy, we will get back to 2019 and 2024. So, Paul, taking your point, opening is not the answer. And I actually told, when I was at the chamber, I told a lot of members that, we're fighting opening, but opening doesn't mean that people can spend money. They don't have money to spend. And that is accentuated further because, yes, transport is going to go up. Taxi fares will probably move a little bit. Importers and distributors are going to, if they have to pay for this increased fuel, they're going to have to put something on their price of goods, right? I don't think it's going to be more than maybe 5% or something like that. I think it will be nominal in many instances, except in that, because transport is a small component. In many cases, transport is less than 5% of the total cost of the product. Most cases.
But you're saying that, aren't they already paying more transport costs for freighting stuff in, based on the global fuel prices?
So that is what I'm talking about, because freight into Trinidad, or freight anywhere in the world, this is not a Trinidad phenomenon. Freight has gone up from the Far East 400%, right? And from other parts of the world, it's gone up 200, 250%. So freight has gone up around the world. So we have to recognize that this fuel cost is like, I would like to say the straw that broke the camel's back, but unfortunately, the political environment is one where our opposition picks up on they pick up on everything and explode it as if, oh, this is something unique. It's not. But if we found a mechanism to protect that cadre of people who need help, at least will numb that pain. So taking your point, Paul, opening the economy is not going to solve our problem until we solve the problem of supporting our vulnerable in our society. That's and
well,
if we
the government
don't
will
do
say,
that,
well, we give a lot of support grants, and we give this grant and that grant, and that's how we support the social safety net kind of thing.
But that's a one-off. We have to put a mechanism in place that facilitates this being done. In other parts of the world, it don't be, well, I go give you something tomorrow. It's a benchmark. You earn under this income, and that income, in my mind, could be $120,000 a year, because I think that is probably where kind of like middle class, lower middle class is right now, and they should be protecting those people and saying, here's a rebate for you. This is $150. If you're under 80, $200, and these figures might be wrong. They're just to explain. And if you're earning under $3,000 a month or $40,000 a year, you should get maybe $500 in rebate. And that rebate will help pay for the right price of fuel, the increased cost of food, the increased cost of electricity, and the increased cost of water. Take those prices up, because we are wasting the country's resources subsidizing electricity, water, and fuel for people who are living in Large Park and Bel Air and Goodwood Park and those places, and they're paying the same price as the lower income people.
Mr. Faria, so far we've only discussed the increase in with fuel, the increase in transportation costs in terms of taxis and maxis and so on. Are we expected to get increase in both transportation, the sea bridge and also the air bridge? And what about international like Caribbean Airlines flying to other venues and so on?
I get the impression that the government will continue to leave the inter-island sea and air at the price that they have done it. It's part of the whole relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, so I don't think they'll touch that. I think international airfares will go up, but again, if you want to go, pay. And if you want to go, pay, but then if your income is under a certain level, you could count on your money coming back from the government. And I guarantee you that if they do that, they will better target that support mechanism to those who need it.
Now, you keep referring to this money coming back. Is that something that the group that you now head will be advocating to the government?
We have written and we have recommended it. And this was done even when I was at the chamber, where we had said target the response. I was talking to Dr. Terence Farrell sometime a couple of years ago, and he said the same thing. He said, we talk about digitization, we talk about having our information available. Part of the challenge we have is the amount of people that are outside the tax net that should be there. If we collected the right amount of taxes, and if we tax those people appropriately, and we got even the doubles ban and the taxi vendor to start filing tax returns, we will have a better perspective. So that is why I am saying give these refunds and give these rebates to people who file tax returns. Because we, as a country, I think maybe 40% of our population are not within the tax net, and I think we need to bring them in, even if they're low tax people. In other words, is the doubles man and is the taxi vendor filing tax returns? right? Are they self-employed? Are they putting NIS? Are they putting funds in NIS so that when they retire they'll have something?
Well,
But
a
then
lot of them would like
is
to do the NIS thing, but they're not being allowed.
Yeah, and I think they've talked about that, Wendell. I think they've talked about allowing self-employed to come onto the system.
Yeah.
Which I
Right?
don't understand. Mr. Faria, controversially and boldly, Barbadian Prime Minister Mia Mottley has taken aim at the banks and said it's time to deal with the banks and the exorbitant charges in many regards. You keep money, they charge you. You don't keep money, they charge you. You know? And she has made a very profound statement saying that if they don't self-regulate in that regard, she will bring legislation to manage that. Would you be an advocate of that here?
I recognize that as a consumer, I think the one thing you can always count on is a new list of fees coming from financial institutions when interest income is down. So I think there needs to be. I was hoping that the competitive environment will like it is with KFC, if you want to call it, where boy, I need to drop my price because people aren't going to buy from me. I was hoping that would manage the financial sector. I think we have too much power in too few a group that in that financial sector. So if it means we have to regulate something that says fees for people who have in sums under so much should only have a minimal fee, I would support that. But again, we have to be careful. Once you start to put too much of those government control things into the private sector, it takes away the initiative. But I think, again, I believe we need to support the lower and middle class so that they are not burdened. A man can be paid $25 a month for an account. If he's putting in $2,000 or $3,000 every month, it's difficult. It's a large percentage.
Some have suggested that the banks are shunting so much of their services online, and rightly so, but you're still paying the service charges. So, I mean...
Well, yeah, but I want you to understand that in my mind, from a commercial perspective, there is a cost to providing services. There is a cost to provide, and we always have to respect the person who is going home, buying or going out and buying nuts, roasting your nuts, putting it in a paper bag, going down the road, buying a container, selling it to you. There are costs for that. And the same applies to financial institutions. But we have to try to find a mechanism to ensure that, as Mia Mottley said, that we insulate a certain cadre of our citizens from those costs. And whatever that is, if it is to say that people who have under this, who earn under this, or who have their salaries at a certain level should pay a lower fee, I believe it's fair because it is difficult for people.
But waiting for the bank to be altruistic, and they have many funds and foundations that they do good work in. The market forces aren't doing it. It's easy for them to get together in the Bankers Association and say, you know what? We're all going to put this charge, and we're all going to put that charge. We don't know we're going to bank and association discussions. You understand? It's like telecom companies saying we will not go below X amount as a benchmark, as opposed to letting the market forces take over. That doesn't happen. We know sectors collaborate to maximize profit, and that's a fact. And I'm not against people in their business model making money, but as you said, it doesn't seem that the most vulnerable are being protected.
Yeah, and I think as a country, the greatest concern we as citizens need to be aware of is if we don't create an environment where people feel that they can live reasonably, even at a lower income level, we're going to end up with anarchy. We're going to end up with people who are bitter people, and that means the country is not going to be safe.
But in addition to anarchy, the signs are there. You're seeing people coming out and committing suicide over economic woes.
Yes.
In a very public manner. I mean, you don't need stronger signals than that people are under pressure. People who have bought their houses, who have mortgages, who have been able to take care of their families beforehand are deciding tragically that this is their only way out.
Paul, you don't have to convince me. I think we need to get the politicians to recognize it. In fact, the one thing I recognize this weekend is that for some reason or another, everybody is forming a political party. everybody believes that, because you hear people talking and they say, well, yes, we have to solve this. And if the incumbent government and opposition will take a proactive approach to dealing with this rather than turning a blind eye, if we are more responsive, if we display more empathy, I think you will see a difference. But right now, there's almost an arrogance, a disdain to that sector of people, and it's kind of like, well, as I increase it 3 times, nothing happened, let me go again, and that psyche is wrong. Yeah. That psyche is wrong.
And you're wrong, and giving someone a one-off grant, as you said before, is not the answer. It has to be some sort of structural intervention.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Wendell.
It might be a question of timing, you think? Because even all these parties that are springing up, how are they being financed to run a campaign? Because there's a campaign really that they're going to have to run for 3+ years.
Yeah. And it just takes more money out of our system I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we need more political parties or more transparency and governance on what's there now. I think we need another political party, but the reality is that the more political parties you end up with, the more dilution of the vote you're going to end up with, and that's going to create a whole bacchanal that I don't know what's going to happen, because depending on where they come from, who they'll take for. But let's not go into that. That's the election talk.
And people keep separating Tobago from Trinidad politically, and Tobago is very different socio-politically from Trinidad. But isn't the overriding principle of disaffection and dissatisfaction and fed up with the options applicable in Trinidad? Because basically what we've seen is 6 or 1/2 and there's the next, without any real progress. Yes, the two parties are philosophically different and they approach governance in a different way, and both of them have their shortcomings and both of them have their advantages, but we've been caught in a 20-year cycle of either or, which is not necessarily healthy for the country.
Yeah. But what's driving this, as I said, is that there are a group of people, and as you said, Paul, you have people who are middle income that they have their mortgage and they realize I can't make ends meet and don't have a job, or I'm earning less than I used to, and they hit a wall, and we can't continue to turn a blind eye to those people. And that, I think we need to recognize that what we are seeing in terms of political parties, what we are seeing in terms of our economy is not dealing with that group of people. And we have to, we can't continue to just say, well, we're going to deal with it in the next election. We have, there needs to be a group of people who are going to come up and say, no, it has to be dealt with now, and it can be.
Yeah. What's your impression on micro, small, and medium-sized businesses and the impact of the pandemic? Because that's another category that employs a large number of people that have taken a huge hit in this pandemic.
Well, we had asked about it. We had asked about creating support for that sector when I was at the chamber. And when I decided to retire, I said that's a group I'm going to try to support in terms of providing mentorship and guidance to them and focus on, because those people I've seen so many of them take initiatives in planting and going into agriculture and going into processing. You've seen a lot more product when you go into the shelf. And I want to commend Massey Stores for the Nudge program, where they're allowing those people to get access to the shelves. They are significant, but we have to support them. And I'm always surprised that the unit that's supposed to support our entrepreneurs is the Ministry of Labor. And I don't know if that ever resonated with you, Paul. When you think about,
we still have one.
But when you think that they're the ones that are supposed to provide entrepreneurial oversight or entrepreneurs, you say, but who in the Ministry of Labor doing that again?
I mean, they have a division called, is it NETCO?
Yeah, NETCO.
But I mean, as I've asked on several budget presentations, what is the analysis coming out of NETCO? Are you investing 100 million? What is the throughput? What is the output? How many businesses survive in the investment? Is it a political slush fund? Is it that you're giving money and do expect returns? Are we tracking the success of the businesses? And the answer is no.
Yeah, they've gone quiet. That's cool.
Yeah. No, but what is the capacity? Where, if we brought the entrepreneurs together and we brought business people together and say support businesses, and there are a lot of businesses that have been doing it. I mean, as I say, commend Massey for the nudge program. There are a number of small businesses who are supporting and providing mentorship. And we have to get business to support business. I have nothing wrong with the Ministry of Labor trying it, but do they have the capacity to support these micro entrepreneurs? Do they understand business? Do they understand what's required?
We have no evidence of the track record. What is the track record?
Correct.
If you don't have a data to work, we invested in 60 businesses, 20 survived, 40 didn't survive because of X, Y, and Z, 20 survived because of it. How can we know if it's successful or if it's just pumping money into a black hole? And that's my problem with Netco. We don't know.
Yeah.
So that is a major concern, because we really have continued to let that sector suffer, and more so during the pandemic. But there, if you want to call that, there are glimmers of light, because a lot of people who have been unemployed, who have become unemployed or underemployed, because there's a group of people who are underemployed. They're not able to work full time, so they're working part time. Businesses have been doing that because they can't afford to pay their staff because business is slow. And they're going into other sectors. As I said, they're farming, they're creating product, they're producing product. So but if we can only direct the support to those people to help them to grow. I mean, when you look at the Jamaica Micro Stock Exchange, they, I think, have over 50 companies on their junior stock exchange. I think we have 2 or 3, right? And we've been around longer. And it just goes to show you that we haven't created that. And I want to commend the stock exchange. I know they're trying to move on this, but we have to get not a small stock exchange, a micro stock exchange, a mechanism to deal, as you said, Paul, with those micro industries right now that are invisible. You can't find them because they're working out of their home. It's a lady or a husband who got retrenched or got laid off, and they're doing the things at home, and they need support. They need mentorship. They need some guidance on how do I buy my goods? How do I deal with cash flow? A lot of it. Sometimes money is a liability because you give them money and they throw it away, but you have to teach them and train them how to run their business.
Before we close, Mr. Faria,
yes.
Do you expect, because a lot of the unions and some political parties are threatening to take to the streets over the gas hike, do you expect that the government will back down on it, much like how KFC backed down on the condiment when they realized the firestorm that came their way?
I don't expect them to. No, I don't expect that that's going to have any influence. I mean, as I said, I expected prices to go up. It's going up across the world. I think the application of it is a problem where they're treating all people with the same, and I think the government can solve the problem by identifying that we are going to protect those vulnerable, because it's not a tax rebate. We can't say at the end of the year you're going to pay less tax. We have to deal with those people on a month-by-month basis and put some income to those people to offset the increased cost they're paying. I think if the government did that, but I think the government will not pull back, because this is just the start of a lot more. And as I said, electricity is supposed to go up, water is supposed to go up. Been talking about this, Paul. How many years are we talking about increasing price of electricity and water? Probably more than...
The deflection is the increase in water rates is a function of the RIC.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the government has never said that, in parentheses, air quotes.
But those things are supposed to be adjusted. So I don't think, because we all know we're paying lower than everybody else for electricity, we're paying lower than everybody else for water. We all know our fuel is not the lowest, because I checked that chart and we're somewhere in the 25% quantile, where about 75% of the world pays more higher prices than us. So I don't think they will go back. But I think they need to put a mechanism to protect the most vulnerable. Right? That's my record. That's my recommendation. I think going back now, hold on, just to be clear, I think if they do the numbers and show that the increased energy can pay for the subsidy, then they should pull back now. Just to be clear, if the numbers are made transparent and they can show that they can, because of the increased revenue they're earning from methanol and natural gas and so on, and oil, it can cover the subsidy cost, then they can pull back. But I don't know him, Paul, I don't think they'll do it.
And why would the bookkeeper do that? He's already made the announcement.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. Faria. We appreciate it.
Have a good morning, guys.
I want to put on record, I didn't refer to him as a bookkeeper.
Well,
We know who said it, no problem. No love lost.
And you're accustomed to Bacchanal. Thank you so
Stay
much,
safe,
Mr.
guys.
Thanks,
All right.
Mr.
Stay
Faria.
safe. All the best.
All right.
Bye.
All the best to you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Recording
Thank you.
stopped.
All right. Gentlemen, good morning to you, Dorothy. Thank you so much, Gabriel Faria, for being on the show this morning. Let's get into our news brief. All courtesy, Sean Florida Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Former head of the business chamber, Gabriel Faria, says he does not expect a significant